Hey guys, welcome to the session. In this session, I would like to discuss about file concept and file access methods of operating system course. Now, first, let's see what is file concept, then we'll go to file access methods. First of all, we should know what is a file. So, file is nothing but collection of related data, and these file occupies continuous logical address space. And files are of different types. Basically, there are three types. The first one is a data file, next is program file, and the next one is a document file. If it is a data file, then it can save either numeric data, character data, or binary data. And if it is program file, it can have like source file or object file, source code or object code. Next is a document file, which contains some document. Next is let's see what is a file system. Collection of some related files on a particular device or a directory, we call it as a file system. And basically all these files are stored in a secondary storage so that you can protect it for longer period of time. And as you're storing in secondary storage, it will be non-volatile. And as we have discussed uh, earlier, the files will be of different types like source, data, object, executable. And every file will be identified by a particular name which is given by the user itself for convenience of user. And one more thing, every file is associated with some set of attributes and operations which are provided by the system. So we are going to see what are the attributes and what are the operations that you can do on a particular file. So now the next thing is um, file structure. So let's see what is file structure. So means how does the data be in that particular file be the data will be in different forms. The first one is it doesn't have any particular structure. In that case, you can write the data inside the file as a sequence of words or some sequence of bytes. The other one is simple record structure, means in this form, in this file structure, you can write the data in the form of lines which will be of fixed length or maybe variable length. Generally it is used to store the database of uh, some organization or something like that. Next is complex structure, which will be not human readable format, and in that you can have like formatted document or relocatable load file. Now let's see the file attribute. So in the beginning we have seen that every file will be associated with some set of attributes, and some you can do some operations on that file. Now let's see what are the different file attributes we have. First thing is we have a name. So as we have discussed, every file will be identified uniquely with a name which is human readable form. And next thing is every file will have a unique identifier that is called as tag sometimes within the file system. So as I told, file system is nothing but some collection of files. So among those files, if you want to identify a particular file, then you can identify using this identifier, which is a unique tag of a particular file in that particular file system. Next is type. Type indicates what type of file it is. Like we have seen in the beginning, it can be either data file, program file, or a document file. Next is the location. Location means where exact it is stored, in which drive, in which file folder, and so on. And next one represents the size of a file. And then protection. Protection indicates what are the permissions allowed on that particular file, whether it is a read-only file, write-only file, and so on. And the next one is time, date, and user identification. Means it indicates that when was the file created, at what time, and who created that, and in which directory structure it is, and so on. All this related information of a particular file will be stored. So in our normal Windows operating system, if you want to know the file attributes of a particular file, we'll just right click on that particular file and we'll go to the properties which shows all these attributes of a particular file. So this is related to one file. So we like that we can see the data of entire file system. Next, we are going to see the file operations. So what are the operations we are going to do in a particular file? So we are going to do these operations like creating a file, While creating the file, what we are actually doing is we are creating some space for that particular file, and the details of that particular file are stored in the directory structure. Means when you are creating that, you should make the entry of this file in the directory or file system, and you should also allocate some space for the new file so that you can write the data or you can save something inside that file. So using this creation operation, the two things will be done. One is allocating the space, another thing is its details are entered into the directory. Next thing is write. So you are writing something into the data using some at some location. Next, reading. Reading is done from the file, and for this, both reading and writing, you will be using some pointers. So these pointers are based on the types of accessing methods that you are going to use. So we'll discuss it later. Next is reposition within the file. Reposition means it's like going a navigation kind of thing. So you're navigating from one point to another point. So that is called as reposition, which is also known as file seek. Next is delete. So when you have created, you have allocated some space and you made the entry in the directory. Similarly, I don't want to use the file anymore. So in that case, you have to delete that. So when you are deleting, so you have to release the space, and you should erase all its details from the directory which you have entered while creating. So this is delete operation. And next thing is truncate. Truncate is an operation which will delete the content of a particular file, keeping the structure of the file as it is. That is, it keeps the directory entry, means its entry in the directory will be as it is, its attributes also, but it deletes only the content. That is called as truncate. So that's the difference between delete and truncate. So delete means completely entire details will be removed, whereas truncate means only content will be deleted. The next one is open and close. So when you're saying that a file or file system as file as open, means all this the content of that particular file are moved to the memory. And next thing is close. Close means you have done with everything and you are closing that. It means that the entire data of that particular file are stored in the secondary storage like disk. So you're saving all your processing, and you're closing that in, you're storing that into disk. So that is close operation. So these are the operations that we do on a particular file. So we have seen file attributes and file operations. Next thing is we have to know about open files. Means in the file system there will be some set of files which are open, called as open files, means the files which are open. Now we have to know some information about these open files. So what is that information mean is you have to know about the file open count, that is how many files are open, and after opening how much time you are using that, how many times you have referred, and so on. Next is file pointer. File pointer indicates that what operation you have done recently, either read operation or write operation, so on. So file pointer will indicates that the recent operation that you have done. File open count will indicate that number of times a particular file is opened and how many files are open. Next thing is disk location of file. So it will mention the address of particular file. Generally it will retrieve the data from the cache. Next is access rights. So what are the permissions you have that uh, mm, particular open file. So all this information about a particular file, about open files are maintained. Next is file types. So what are the different types of files we have? So we have seen that the different types of files we have, like a data file, program file, and document file. So these files are easily identified by their extension. So every type of file will have their own extension. Just observe the first column. This indicates the type of file like executable, object, source code, batch, text, word processor, and so on, and their extension. If it is a text file, it will be .txt or .doc. If it is source code, it may be .c, .cc, .java, and so on. And their functioning is mentioned here. So this indicates that the different file types and their usual extensions. So we have to just remember this for examination point of view. Next thing is file access methods. So till now we have learned about file concept. So let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed. So we have seen that the different types of files. We have seen that it is stored in the secondary storage, which is very which is very protective. And then we have seen that every file will be associated with some set of attributes and operations. So these are the attributes and these are the operations. And also we have seen the file structure where it will be three structures are there. One is none, next is simple record, next one is complex structure. Then we have seen what is open file and then file types with extension. Now we'll see file access methods, means how you'll access the file. So means how you'll access the data from that particular how you'll access the file. So let's see how this is accessed. We have three methods in this: sequential, direct, and other access methods like ISAM, indexed sequential access method. Now let's see what is the first one: sequential access method. Now this is applicable for the secondary storage devices like magnetic tape. So in earlier days, we used to have like magnetic tapes as secondary storage device where files are used to be stored. In that magnetic tapes, if you have to access any file, you have to actually access right from the first location. So you can't directly randomly access any particular file. So you have to access sequentially only. In that case, let's see how it is done. So first thing is, it is very simple to implement, and as I told, it is processed in order one after the other, and the mode of access is by far the most common. So this is the most common access method, and for this access method we'll be using two pointers. One is read next pointer, and the other one is write next pointer. So these two pointers are used for either reading the data from file or writing the data into the file. So when you're reading some particular data, imagine, now I'll start from the first word, then read next pointer will be pointing to the next word which I have to read now. So likewise, read next pointer will be advancing to the next word always. Similarly, write next. When I'm writing something, after the first word is completed, immediately it will point to the next word that I have to write. These two pointers are used for reading and writing in this sequential access method. Now let's see key points in this one. So here the data is accessed one record right after the another one. So you can't access anything randomly. Next thing is, when we use read command, it moves ahead pointer by one. That pointer is read next pointer. When we use write command, it will allocate memory and move the pointer to the end of the file. That is, it will go to the next location. Now such a method is reasonable for magnetic tape. So if you'll observe just diagram, it just is showing that we have a magnetic tape kind of thing. We have beginning location, end location, and my current position. So you, while reading and writing, it will always advance the pointer to the next location. And we can, for reading, you can go you have to read from the beginning, that is using rewind technique. So this is about sequential access. Next is direct access. The drawback of previous one is you can't directly access any particular block of data in a file or a particular file in that particular file system. So here the drawback is overcome by this direct access, where the file is particular block of content of a particular file is accessed directly, or you can access a file directly using this method. Now let's see how it is accessed. Now in this this is generally applicable for disk model. The previous one was applicable for magnetic tape, whereas this is applicable for disk model. Now here in this case you need to have only one value, that is a position of a particular uh, location. Like if you want to access the data at particular location, imagine it is small n, then you have to know that n value. if you know that n value, directly you can go to that n value and you can write some data, or you can read some data from that particular location. So this is very easy to implement. So this is about direct access method. Now let's see the definition actually. For direct access, the file is viewed as a numbered sequence of block or record. Thus, there is no restriction on the order of reading and writing for a direct access file. So this is direct access. Now let's see the third one, that is called as indexed sequential access method. So that is indexed sequential method. So in that we have a method called indexed sequential access method. Now let's see the diagram here. If you want to access any file here, what you have to do is, instead of directly going to that particular data of the file, I'll just go to an index file where it will store some indexes to the files here. So imagine that I'm searching for a file called as Smith. Now its contents will not be here itself. So it will have some index numbers like 1 to 10, for example. Now imagine that Smith file is at 10th location. So what I'll do is, I'll just go to the 10th location in the storage, and there I can find in detail the entire file. So this method of access is called as index file. So this method is actually faster because you need to find just the pointer first and directly go to the file. Whereas the first one was very slow because you have to retrieve the file one after the other, and you should go to your respective file only when it is found. Imagine that it is at the end of the tape, then it's very it time consuming. Whereas direct is also good, but you have to know correct location. Whereas here it is based on index, so it's easy to access that. So these are the three file access methods. So in this session we have learned about file concepts and file access methods. I hope everyone understood these concepts in this session. Thank you all.